Peace, everyone, and welcome back to Quality Astrocartography. I'm your girl Q, the astrologist, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about my experience living on my Mars square ascendant line in astrocartography. But first and foremost, make sure you guys like the video, share the video content, and check out my new website, qualityastro.com, for a reading. If you would like an astrocartography reading or a natal chart reading or even astrotherapy, all that information is down in the description box below. So let's get started. I want to talk to you guys about my experience on my Mars square ascendant line having a Mars exaltation. All right. So basically, my Mars placement in my natal chart is very harmonious. Okay. I have a very strong Mars placement. So how does a person who has a strong Mars placement, how do they deal with Mars square energy in a location? Do they still have a good experience on the square, or do they have a negative experience? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's about 50-50, okay? Now, let's talk about Mars in astrology. Mars in astrology represents action, energy, war, anger, taking the steps that you're guided to take. It's divine masculine energy. It's like go getter energy. All right. In astrocartography, same thing occurs in this particular location where you feel that you're in your divine masculine energy. You are here for combat. You are here to assert yourself and those kinds of things. So definitely when you go and live on your Mars line in general, you will feel very energized and maybe more in your masculine energy, especially if you are a female or identify as a female. You're going to feel more energetic and just asserting yourself more and being more certain about who you are and just having a lot of courage and bravery and all the things that Aries represents, because we know that Mars rules the sign of Aries. So you're going to feel like an Aries. It's going to feel like it's about you and only you, all right? Now, a person that has a strong Mars placement going to a Mars square ascendant line, basically, I have this line in Cape Town, South Africa. So I've spent two different times in Cape Town, South Africa. The first time I went to Cape Town, South Africa was in 2012, and then I went back in 2013 for a longer period of time, for about 6 months, right? So I lived on my Mars square ascendant line for 6 months. There's a couple of different lines there, but we're going to talk about Mars square ascendant. Now, with the Mars line, it's definitely for athletic types, independent types, because Mars rules Aries, the first house, the independent, the interdependent person, not the codependent person, in the astrology archetype, which is Libra, all right? So people who are independent, who are more in their masculine energy or resonate with their masculine energy or have no issue being in their masculine energy, really do well on a Mars line, okay? But for me, because I'm also having a Mars placement that is particularly strong and would be deemed as harmonious in astrology, I had a great time in Cape Town, South Africa. I definitely was able to tap more into my fitness modeling type of role because I went there for modeling. I went there and I had a contract for modeling both times. It wasn't until the second time that I went to Cape Town, South Africa, that's when I started to get more into more of the fitness modeling roles, the basketball, the running, track, all that good stuff, right? And I really started to excel. Now, luckily for me, my Mars placement is exalted. So me being on a Mars square ascendant line, because my Mars placement is exalted, I was able to come out of Cape Town, South Africa unharmed, unscathed. However, I will be honest and say that I did deal with anger from people external to me. I dealt with people that were upset at me, people that argued with me, people who were unkind to me, right? But it wasn't an everyday thing. It just kind of happened in spurts, right? And that's Mars square. You know, squares in astrology represent conflict. So that I had some conflict with other people, but because my Mars is exalted, I am able to understand how to take action, when and when not to take action, when and when not to speak, you know, when and when not to, you know, start things or initiate things, you know. So I'm able to kind of take a step back before I take action on things. So because my Mars is exalted, I was able to get out of Cape Town, South Africa unscathed, unharmed. The only things that happened were arguments. There was no violence. There was no hurt. There was no any of that stuff, anything being held against my will or robbery. There was none of that stuff, thank goodness. And that's because my Mars is exalted, right? Now, if someone did not have an exalted Mars, let's say, for example, the person had Mars in Libra, right? And Mars in Libra is not a harmonious position for Mars to be in. It is a weak position. It is a weak sign for Mars to deal with, all right? Because Libra is the opposite sign of Aries. Aries is about the self, Libra is about the other. So a person with Mars in Libra, they tend to, you know, take action on bringing people together and being harmonious and doing things for the group, right? So if a person that has Mars in Libra, but also depending on how their Mars in Libra is being aspected, but let's just say in general, if a person has Mars in Libra and they go to their Mars square ascendant line, they will have a more difficult time than I did. They would have, let's say, 60-40, where it was like 60% a lot of aggression and 40% harmony. Whereas for me, it was more so even kill. It was 50-50, right? So, you know, with women find the Mars zone particularly problematic because there's a lot of aggression that can happen towards you from men. But the interesting thing is when I went there, I experienced aggression from women. I didn't experience any aggression from men at all whatsoever. The men were actually really nice, no matter, you know, if they were of Dutch descent or, you know, Afrikaans. You know, those are the two types of people that are there in South Africa. And I didn't experience any tension from men at all. I experienced the tension from women. Interesting, right? And I remember there was one incident where I had just got finished shooting a commercial for Propel Water, and a friend of mine invited me to a party, a little get together. They were opening up a shop or something. And so I'm standing there talking to my friends, and all of a sudden these two women, they were much older. They put a chair behind me, literally about a foot behind me, maybe even a couple inches. I won't even give them a foot. It was like really like right there on my leg. And then they sat down in the chair very close to me as I'm standing up talking to my friends, and I got a little agitated with them, and then a whole argument ensued with these two women. And so at that time, back in 2013, you know, I was a little bit more, you know, running from confrontation. So I think that saved me as well, that I didn't really go into it with them. I decided to leave the party and just go away because the things that they were saying to me were very harsh and very threatening as well, like life-threatening. And so I decided to leave. Another incident that happened was with someone at my agency at the time. When I asked my agent at the time, could she advance me the money that I made from my modeling jobs there? And at first she was doing it, and then all of a sudden one day she just blows up at me and just starts arguing with me out of nowhere. And I was really taken aback by that, and I was really caught off guard that she would do that. And, you know, she did it. She did it. She definitely did it. So with your Mars square ascendant line, you can encounter quite a few problems dealing with people, all right? They can be aggressive and belligerent towards you if your Mars is exalted, right? If your Mars is in, let's say, Aries or Scorpio, then you may be the one that's being aggressive and belligerent. It just depends on how your Mars placement is being aspected, of course, as well. I dealt with a lot of, rashness and people expressing themselves kind of like in a more physical way towards me, like at that party example, for instance, and I just decided to leave the party. But all in all, the most positive things that happened for me were definitely my career. I had a great modeling career there for the 6 months that I was there. I was booking a lot of work. I was booking fashion, commercial, and sports stuff as well, because Mars in my chart is pretty nicely aspected, and it's also in its exaltation. So this is why I'm sharing this story with you guys, because you need to understand that not all areas are going to be bad, depending on what sign your planet is in and that power line that you're on. However, when you are dealing with squares, even if that planet is in its exaltation, and even though that planet likes to be in that particular sign, you can still encounter tension, conflict, a surge to act and get through the conflict, right? But again, like what I always say about squares is the way that you can conquer squares is you have to conquer them with a plan and with patience. You have to take a step back and you have to plan accordingly on how to get through the obstacle, because that's essentially what a square is it's an obstacle. It is a blockage. It is a blockage set up as an obstacle. And the only way that we can get through obstacles is if we make a plan to get through them. We can't just have a wall, which is the blockage, and just blast through it like a mad person. We have to make a plan, a structure plan to get around the wall and go on our way. And I believe that's what I tried to do when I was met with those women at that party. Instead of sitting there and arguing with them as they were my blockage, I decided to take a step back and go around them and leave, right? I also feel like my ascendant sign has something to do with that as well, because when we're looking at astrocartography, you also need to look at your ascendant sign, and you also need to look at what sign is Mars in, all right? So that's it, guys. That concludes my Mars square ascendant story. I'll do a Mars square midheaven story, because I do have Mars square midheaven in my hometown. So I'll talk about that as well in a different video. But thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and also if you would like to book a reading, astrocartography, natal chart, or love reading, career reading, and astrotherapy, you can go to qualityastro.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.